welcome to So You Think That Was Good, Do You? A podcast where we take a look back at the films from your childhood and question the absurdity of their universes. My name is Evan, and this week is a bloody special one because I'm joined by the two incredibly funny hosts from Blockblunders. I tell you what, I've been absolutely smashing this pod recently, and I am in love with it. I'm looking directly at them as I say that. So everybody, please give the biggest of hellos and welcomes to Barry Walsh and Pat Sunderland. How are you doing, boys?
Oh my God. Even when you invite us onto this podcast, you didn't say that there was a live studio audience. This is incredible. It's gorgeous.
No, please stop throwing flowers. My God, yeah, I can't take all the roses.
Thank God we were all wearing our recording tuxes. My God. No, thanks so much for having us. We are the hosts of Blockblunders, a film podcast all based around talking about films that one of us hasn't seen. We have some people on to guess the plots of movies that they've heard about but have never actually watched. We get all kinds of handsome Welsh contestants on, including a one Mr. Evan. So it's so happy to be here.
It is great to have you boys here. You both good?
Fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. We've flown into the UK. It's been a long flight, but we
were met by roses and red carpets, and Evan really, I can't believe you got the limo that I requested, but you did.
Yeah, we had to walk, but that is okay. That's totally fine. We're not bitter about it at all. We're happy to just move past it.
Well, it's great to have you boys here. I suppose it's time to reveal the movie that we're going to decide whether or not we thought it was good, did we? And that movie is Flubber, 1997, starring probably really the only notable person here, Robin Williams, late and great, of course. There is one other cast member that we'll talk about because I saw you both had notes for his introduction, yes. But we'll get to him. Let's save that as a nice little surprise for everyone.
Now, I think when I watched this, I only watched it this morning for me, and I think I may have never seen Flubber before this.
That's
which
crazy.
Is why. So the theme of our podcast is that I just have not seen many movies, and that's why I had the idea to do the podcast Blockblunders, because I was like always trying to think about the plots. I just had seen so many movies that I thought I'd known the plot just from pop culture. And Flubber must be one of those, because when I watched it, I was like, I only remember one scene from this. So either I saw it once and all I remember was Flubber dancing at the end, or I never saw it and just know that Flubber dances at the end.
I have some vague recollection of the Flubber dancing scene being used in, adverts, maybe like Burger King or something. So it's
maybe I saw it in an ad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen this movie.
You absolutely know whenever this was being shown on free-to-air TV that the one clip they would show is just that clip of Flubber dancing. It'd be like, it'd have one shot of Robin Williams, then Flubber dancing, being like, Flubber tonight, 6 p.m. Fuck me.
Sponsored by Burger King. Well, we always start off these episodes with a little plot synop of the movie, pulled straight from the top of Google, so it's always absolute shit, but it's just to loop everyone in for what's going to be happening. Here it comes, boys. Professor Phillip Brainard is experimenting with new kinds of energy, and he thinks this project will save struggling Medfield College, where his girlfriend, Sarah, is president. But when he discovers a lively rubber-like substance dubbed Flubber, he gets so excited he absent-mindedly misses his own wedding. Sarah dumps him, so he tries to use his discovery to win her back. Unfortunately, the mischievous Flubber seems to have a mind of its own.
That does not summarise the plot at all.
And I know we're going to get to this, but many of the other stakes in the movie, it's only covering the girlfriend stuff, and this is jam-packed full of stuff to drive the plot in this, all of which don't need to be in there.
And none of which involve Flubber at all.
It's also so funny to me that it's only when you read the plot summaries that you're like, oh yeah, they bothered coming up with a name for Robin Williams' character. Like, we're not all just going to be like... So in this scene, Robin Williams, Professor Bray, you could have given me 2,000 guesses as to this character's name, and I'd be like, is it Robert Williams?
Well, I will refer to him as Philip throughout, but if that becomes an issue, we'll just call him Rob. Wait, Robert? No. What's his name? Robin.
Brainard as well.
There we go.
Brainard is a lazy last name.
It's never mentioned in the movie, Brainard. Nor do people call him
Brainard.
Professor. Brainard, I think.
Oh, I thought it was Brainard.
Well, it's a very old-fashioned name, and that actually, I didn't realise this until, kind of looking at the film for this episode. Do you guys know that this is a remake of an old film from, like, the fucking 50s?
What?
I do, yes.
Yeah, this is like it's like The Nutty Professor. It's almost exactly like The Nutty Professor. They've taken this old comedy from the 60s or something called The Absent-Minded Professor.
I know of The Nutty Professor.
Yes, and like the Eddie Murphy movie is a remake of an old Jerry Lewis movie.
Pat, you know I don't.
Okay.
I didn't know who James Cameron was the other week.
No, that's a good point. So both of these, they're very similar movies in a lot of ways. They're also both fucking remakes of 60s comedies. I don't know what this trend was in the mid 90s that they were like, we should bring back that fucking shit movie from 30 years ago.
Yeah, so that's why we get a scene later on, I do note it, where he says that he's absent-minded about 6 times in a row, just to really nail in that this is a remake, and you should remember that.
So was the other movie called The Absent-Minded Professor?
Yeah.
That was the original Flubber.
Okay.
Which is way less catchy than Flubber, so I see why they changed it.
In fairness, they figured it out how to make it. Yeah.
But also, I never knew that Flubber was just, he goes, oh, it's flying rubber, Flubber. So it was that moment in the movie where I was like, oh, I've never seen this film.
All right.
That's fair. And we're going to get to that too, because I have a point of contention with that naming process. Because it is.
Damn straight. I bet I have a point of contention with most of this movie.
And we're in for a good one, and maybe a long one, so let's get into it. So we open as usual with every bloody 90s movie, especially kids' movies that I watch, with opening credits. And these ones, they go on for 1:41. And that's not too bad in the scheme of things. Usually they go on much longer than that. And then we see this little paper boy. He's delivering newspapers to the whole neighbourhood. It's very suburban where this is. So when he finally gets to our protagonist's house, it stands out a little bit. There are pipes coming out of it. It looks like it's being fumigated. A little bit. But this is just his house.
He looks like the worst neighbour on the block.
Yes, I bet it stinks. It looks like it stinks of chemicals.
It's a straight up health hazard. It is a complete health hazard.
So this little paperboy, he chucks a paper onto the doorstep. This is only important because we get a good look at the paper. This is Hoynecker, who is not in the movie, by the way. He's not mentioned again, threatens to close the college. Oh, wait, unless this is the mob boss, in which case, prepare for him to be referred to as the mob boss for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I did not know that dude's name. I was unsure why he was in the film at all.
Whilst this is happening, the opening credits reappear. And that's where this is the scene that everybody remembers, like you did, Barry, that it says The Flubber Mambo by Danny Elfman. So you have something to look forward to, because imagine turning the movie off without knowing that Danny Elfman has a rendition for The Flubber Mambo coming up. It's gonna be fucking sick. We then get a panning view of Dr. Brainard's Philip's house. Oh, why am I so formal? Which is cluttered with books, pipes, scientific instruments, and crumpled up bits of paper. He's got like this whole robotic setup, making him breakfast, shooting his bin out into the street. It's all very Wallace and Gromit.
That's exactly what I wrote down. I wrote down that
Wallace and Gromit?
Yeah. It's.
I had bootleg Teletubbies technology.
No, he's living the dream of what, like, this whole guy is just what kids think smart people are like.
Yes.
Like,
what science is.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a scientist, you've built a massively overcomplicated machine to do stuff that, like, you've built an entire robot arm. Yeah, exactly, to lift toast out of your toaster, because the toaster wasn't good enough already.
And you program every little device in your house with a personality that you then have to thank and abide by. Of course.
Yes, and one of those personalities I have major issues with, as I'm sure you guys do.
Yes,
well,
it's
revolting. If we're talking about the number one cast list on this movie, above Robin Williams, Weebo, listed as the number one cast list, at least crazy. When I Googled it.
Who voices Weebo?
I didn't even look at that.
I have no idea, but what I love is that, we introduced all the household robots in his house, and, you've got like a robot butler and stuff, and none of them they're all just like machines, except he has one sentient, basically, Google Home Assistant.
Yeah.
Who we very quickly learned, like, this thing's main goal in life is to, like, suck off Robin Williams. Like, this thing, he has...
Yeah, I'm nodding.
He has created this fucking thing that is fallen fully head over heels in love with him.
There's so many problems.
Robin Williams is... Oh, here we go. Yeah, Robin is trying to get dressed. This is setting up several things here. First, that he is useless because he's struggling to get dressed. And that there's a female disembodied voice shouting from somewhere in the house who's helping him do it. So we're to assume she helps him with everything. This guy relies on her. And it's probably a real woman, right? Wrong. In floats this little yellow ball into the room named Weebo. And also, I hate that because you know the robot butler he has who does both the dishes and the science experiments? It's called Weeber.
Yeah, I know. It's Weebo and
You're
Weebo.
a genius, bro. Think of different names.
But he's not a genius, and this is the problem I have with the movie, and I'll talk about this later. He flukes every single one of his inventions. Because we'll get to it at the end, but I'm telling you now, this guy has no idea what he's fucking doing from start to finish.
Yeah, spot on, yeah.
But, you know, I also noted that the guy just seems to name his inventions by literally the first shit that flies into his head. He's just putting stuff together, and then he's like, you shall be bling blow, you shall be blah blah, you shall be flu. Like, and let me tell you, the title fucking invention of his movie, he does not stray from his technique.
So Weber comes in, she shows him the paper, which he's already seen. He works at this college that whatever that guy, the mob boss, is going to shut down. And he says that if he can solve this whole metastable compound business, he could save the college. A new energy source would save a fortune. He's not even thinking about selling this idea or providing free electricity for everyone. He thinks he could just save on the heating bill at the college and then they can pay back their debts.
And isn't this just the foreboding nature of his oversight of the capabilities of his inventions?
Yes, and everything in his life. This man does not know what's going on.
Yeah.
So the sex robot neglects to tell Philip that he's supposed to be getting married today, which of course this clutter-brained domestic terrorist has forgotten. That's very poignant because he blows up a lot in this movie. That's coming along.
I think it's already happened at this point. He blows up, his alarm goes off, and instead of the alarm going off, he hits a button that then shoots a rocket into the sky.
Yeah.
Scene 1.
I think that's him shooting his bin out onto the street.
Yes,
Thank
that's
God
right.
that paperboy already passed.
I have a robot that's fully capable of cleaning my whole house and making me breakfast, but in order to take my trash out, I rocket it into the stratosphere and let it come down towards the earth.
You've already got a butler, bro. Ask him to do it.
Just get the robot to take the rubbish out.
This guy is absent-minded on a level that is absolutely dangerous. There's got to be a point where it's like,
he's been lobotomized.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I forgot, I'm finding it difficult to remember my wedding, and also I'm accidentally the Unabomber as well. Like, I just, I meant to mail the explosives to one place and the letters another place, and I just got it mixed up, and what are you doing? Where'd I put my nails? Oh, dang it.
So now we cut to Dr. Sarah Jane Reynolds. She is Philip's fiance, and they're supposed to be getting married today, as Weebo just alluded to. And she's telling a friend here that Philip's already forgotten the wedding twice.
Yeah, this is the first thing she says, is how could you forget a third time?
Yeah, that's insane. How's it possible that he'd forget again?
How did he get a second chance, a third chance, to even fuck it up?
How is he legally allowed to marry someone at this point? Like, surely there has to be some regulation. But I also, like, again, it goes back to he is what a kid thinks a smart person is like. Because he literally has a child's conception of like empathy and what's important to other people. This is like the kid who's like at a relative's funeral and he's just thinking like, boy, I'd love to be playing Game Boy right now. Like, how long can I sit here before I can start playing Game Boy? Like, it's not his fault. He just literally has not learnt that yet.
So as an example of this absent-mindedness, which will become a theme, Philip arrives at the college on a little electric scooter, wearing a helmet, like a fucking nerd, by the way, where he goes to teach a class, but he's in the wrong class. But he starts teaching and he goes for like 5 minutes, and even though there's art students there painting, there's easels, there's pencils, there's actual nude models in the room.
There's 2 nude people on the stage.
Yeah. But he still doesn't notice and carries on. How this man thinks he's going to solve the energy crisis, I don't know.
Yeah, no wonder the fucking university's failing, man. Like...
This fucking guy. So that's just to set up what kind of guy he is. And now he goes to meet Sarah, who he's getting married to today, for lunch. And her friend is hinting to the fucking hills that it's happening.
There's a part right before he joins them for lunch that I've written down. It's a minute part. It means nothing at all, right? But he sees the two of them, like, so it's his wife or his fiance and her friend, and he sees the meeting, and they're like, come over and have lunch with us. And he goes, oh, sure. And he flicks his arms up and hits another woman who's walking past just in the face. And and then just walks off, and that's never addressed. It's never a problem.
Yeah.
It's just to show that he's absent-minded and doesn't give a fuck.
Like, just this guy, yeah.
He just smacks people.
So he doesn't remember that he's getting married, even though he had been reminded this morning. He's forgotten again, so no chance. And having more patience than any other creature on Earth, Sarah gently reminds him that the wedding is at 6:30 p.m. today at the, I don't know why I noted this, but Presbyterian Church. Why did I note that? I can't even say it.
I didn't even note that when I watched it, let alone.
She says he'd better be there because third chance is the last chance, which is fair enough. That's already too many.
Better be there at your wedding.
I love this because I believe that he says in this scene that I'd rather die than disappoint you. We know for a fact already that that's not true.
You've already done it multiple times.
We've proven that he's just lying. It's like, I'd rather die than disappoint you unless literally anything happens to me at all, in which case I will follow that like a squirrel following a fucking nut. Like, I have no like object permanence. Once you're outside my field of vision, you no longer exist to me.
Oh, but boy, when I see you, I care only for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how low is this woman's self-esteem? Please believe in yourself more.
Oh, we'll get into that later because,
So now Philip is tinkering away in his classroom on some science stuff, and in walks his rival, Wilson Croft. He's a rival academic, and he's quite blatant about having stolen ideas from Philip in the past and making a lot of money from them. But he makes the point that what was Philip going to do with them? And it's the right point, because he'd have done nothing with them.
It's at the start of the film, I was like, oh, what a dick. And then by the end, I'm like, he's so right.
I cannot express how much I love this character. This character to me, Christopher McDonald or Shooter McGavin or whatever you want to call him, again, no conception of the character's name, is so fucking phenomenal. The entrance he makes in this movie, I love it, because you walk in and you go, okay, here's the character that's meant to be the sneaky, smarmy villain who steals his ideas. And then he just says, hey, I'm a sneaky, smarmy villain. I steal your ideas. Like, there's not even a moment where he pretends to be friends with the guy. He walks in, Robin Williams is like, oh, you're going to steal my ideas again? And he goes, yes, what are you going to do about it?
And no, he goes, actually, I was thinking this time I'd steal your wife.
Yes, that's why you see her.
Awesome. He's just completely fucking... He's like... I steal your ideas. I'm a crooked guy. I'm corrupt. I'm not as smart as you, and I'm going to fuck your wife. Like, it is just a 10 out of 10 performance. No notes.
So good. And for anyone who didn't recognise the name Shooter McGavin, he is the guy from Happy Gilmore who says, I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. Iconic. What a line.
Yeah. This is the guy you get in an 80s or 90s movie to just be the biggest dickhead you've ever seen. And in this movie, more than any other, he can truly just run away with that.
The only shame is that he is not in this more. He is wasted in this. We don't need the mob in this.
Exactly. It's wild to me that they thought they needed another guy because this movie couldn't be carried by just Robin and Christopher fucking throwing shit at each other from across a room.
As far as I'm concerned, this movie has 3 antagonists, and it's him, there's the mob boss, and Weebo is the 3rd antagonist.
Spot on. Yeah, she does not help. Not until the end. She tries her very best to spoil any plan that Philip has.
No, yeah, she has a great arc, I'm sure, but it's bullshit. She's a robot.
That's a great segue into the next scene, because this is where Philip confronts Weebo for not telling him about the wedding that was supposed to be happening today. It was in his diary, but she was showing it whilst he was like kind of looking away and stuff. And whilst he immediately forgets about this, so don't even worry, because whilst he's looking at the screen, he sees the word hot on Weebo, and figures out some science bullshit. He has an idea. Now he knows how to... He doesn't know he's creating Flubber yet, but this is where the process starts to go about creating him.
Yeah, he, as a scientist, needed to be reminded of the word hot. Like, it didn't occur to him. The most basic principle of, like, this level of physics of shit that's cold doesn't move as fast is something he needed to be reminded of.
I don't know what this is reference to, but the only thing I have written about this scene is truly the worst neighbor ever. So I'm guessing something happens in his house that is loud and explosive.
Well, I think this is now because he's heading down into his basement and he's like dropping yellow liquids into blue liquids. He's connecting cables. He's flipping big switches. You know, all that science shit we expect. And there's a huge explosion. So yes, this is exactly what you're talking about. There's a huge explosion in his basement. Somehow he's fine and his entire basement is fine. But this has resulted in the creation of Flubber, as we're about to find out. But at the same time, the wedding is happening, and Sarah is crying that Philip is not there. But we won't dwell on that, because there's nothing funny about that.
Let's just say a quick shout out to the people in the crowd who are showing up for the third time. Like, a wedding's a big deal. You wear like your best clothes, you know.
You gotta book it off work.
You're talking to your friends like, oh, I'm going to a wedding that day, so I might not be able to come. And they're like, yeah, it's a wedding, you can't come. You'll be busy the whole night. And you're like, well, I just don't know about this guy. This is the third time.
It seems like a midweek wedding too. What is like? Because they're not, you know, they're at work that day.
She's not an idiot. She is not renting out like a proper venue for the third time for him not to show. You don't get a refund on those things because that groom is absent-minded. Like, there's nothing in the fucking contract there.
There's a form you fill out for why the wedding didn't go ahead, and there's absent-minded groom at the bottom. Tick.
Yeah. Oh, I see you didn't tick for absent insurance.
Yeah. So. Invented Flubber.
Well, Flubber is now created. He goes towards this little container in the middle of the room that I'm sure that we all recognise. In fact, I think I had a toy of it when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any solid memories of that, but that feels real to me, so I'm going to say I had, and nobody called me out on it. And I think there was a little Flubber in there. I don't know what happened to him. I think he was too sticky and got covered in hair.
I didn't have a Flubber toy, but I did accidentally leave a crock in the oven, and the result was pretty much, you know...
Same. Oh. Hang on. Hot?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my... That's a scientist.
Flubber is created, and so ensues the physical abuse of whether he's a new element or a new species. He's sentient, so he knows what's going on.
Yeah,
he reacts to things.
He blasts past that fact. He figures that out at the start, and then makes no effort to like, this is a life force. He's like, oh, it's like I'm tricking it, I'm playing with it, I'm like poking it, I'm tickling it. It's responding. Yeah. And then for the rest of the movie, he's like, I'm going to keep it in a jar and spray it onto shit.
Oh, it's so bad. Even in this scene, he's kicking it about. He stretches it over his face.
The stretching it and then puts his face into it like it's I don't know what the fuck you'd do that with. Nothing you would do that with. You would never react like that to anything ever. And he's immediately like, I'm going to put my whole face in this thing.
And he just stated that he was being stored at 77 degrees Kelvin, which is 196.15 degrees Celsius and minus 321.07 Fahrenheit. That's fucking cold, bro. And you've just stuck your face. He shouldn't have a face anymore. It should be on Flubber.
Yeah. But I do have to say, in credit, Robert Williams is selling this quite well with his physical acting.
Yeah.
Like, when you consider how they're banking this entire movie off the shitty 90s CGI of Flubber. Thankfully, Flubber is a substance that looks fine even when it's shitty CGI because it's just this weird, shiny green goo.
Green stuff,
but you kind of watch him play with it and you're like, yeah, I buy it.
Looks real, yeah.
Meanwhile, you look at the after the kind of like post show after how they made it sort of thing, and they'll be there like, well, we had to like revolutionize how we saw movement and like how we created that on the computer to make Flubber, and you're like, Flubber sucks.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it, guys. Flubber's the worst part of Flubber. I have to. I must unfortunately
revolutionize it. It was better before.
Put it back.
Yeah.
For a scientist, you know, disregarding that Flubber could be a new species, the very minimum he's just created is a new element because there's nothing like it. And it is insane to me that he's okay with handling it with his bare skin. And it's probably the reason there isn't a sequel to this movie is because he died of an aggressive form of cancer from pushing it against his face.
Not to mention the radioactive fucking isotopes.
Yeah, this guy's the Mary Curie of Flubber.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I imagine this is what Mary Curie did when she discovered polonium and radium, but instead of describing that was like elastic or ductile, she probably noted that her bone marrow was melting into her shoes.
She tried tickling she tried tickling it, and she's like, "Well, it's not reacting, but I certainly feel funny."
Oh, I've got pins and needles. Also, my skin is falling off.
Yeah, it must be because I'm so excited.
No, he doesn't even notice this.
Let's go to the basketball court.
Oh, Lord.
This is then when Flubber starts bouncing all through the town, right?
Yes, yeah. So he's thrown it around the room, and then it shoots out the window and spreads that radiation absolutely everywhere. Oh no! So it gets scared by Weebo taking a photo. The flash makes it
we
shoot
find
out
out it's
the
like
window.
King Kong. It gets scared by camera flashes. I love that detail. Why does it give a shit? Everything's new to it. It's a fucking goo. Like.
This is what we learned. We learned Flubber doesn't like big flashes, and then it also, at one point during its tour of the neighborhood, you learn that Flubber likes ladies with big booties because it makes the shape of a woman's booty and like just kind of wiggles on it for a bit and then continues its journey.
Who is that for? Because it's not for children. They don't understand what's going on there.
Evan, I can tell you with certainty that that's for me. Let's just say I rewatched that particular bit over and over.
So yeah, he bounces all around the neighborhood, and you see important things where he like splits up into lots of little pieces. And what's important to note there is that all those little pieces are also Flubber. They can all act independently, but they're all part of the same sort of hive mind that is Flubber. But treating any individual piece is the same as treating Flubber himself.
It's the Borg. It's just the Borg.
Yes, it'll become evident why that's important, because... But let's get to it. So he flies back to Philip's house, who catches him with a baseball mitt.
Some of the best physical acting in the film is in
Amazing.
this scene.
Yeah. So this is where he names Flubber. So after him, important now, bouncing around the neighborhood, Robin Williams somehow gets the word flying, and... takes Rubber. I'll give you that. He's kind of like Rubber, I guess, because Rubber bounces.
It bounces.
But he's been bouncing, and Rubber bounces, so his name should be Blubber, or Bubba, rather.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably that they named him Flubber because later on in the movie, we learn that Flubber, for some reason, can make other things fly, even though he himself... cannot fly.
Even though that's not established at all. It's specifically always bouncing in every other situation.
It doesn't make sense in other. So I was looking this up, and in the original, The Absent-Minded Professor, there is the same substance, and it is called Flubber, but it's specifically described as a like anti-gravitational substance that he creates, that it's like lighter than air and stuff. But clearly, when they just came to animating it, they were like, well, it'd be fun if it just bounced off a bunch of shit. Even though Rubber already bounces, like, essentially, that whole sequence is just like he's gotten one of those super rubber balls you get as a kid that you just throw and it fucking flies off everywhere. And
this is like super rubber ball.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, this can sustain a film. Look, we might have to add in a mob boss and an adulterous professor, but aside from that, like, this is a movie.
And a robot that wants to fuck.
Oh yeah, and a robot that wants to suck and roll. But,
So, in order to learn that Flubber can fly, this is where he's now, also insane by the way, handling a radioactive isotope in his basement. He's got a suit on, but nothing else in the room is protected. It's not like he's sealed in or anything.
He has a suit on for 5 seconds, Evan. And then he takes off this suit the second he realizes he's late for the wedding.
Everybody knows as soon as you put the radioactive material away, all the radiation is gone. There's no half-life on things like that.
Yeah.
He just
can't go through shit.
I have here written in all caps. It's like his reaction to the whole situation when he finds out. So he famously finds out that the time is 6:30, and then Weebo's like, "Oh, it's actually 6:30 a.m." because I'm a terrible fucking robot who doesn't do my job for you. And then so I've written here, he essentially just goes, oh no, the wedding. I better stop playing with radioactive isotopes and take off all my safety gear and just go try and apologize for the third time. That's his whole approach. He's I'll just leave now.
I love this because he takes Flubber with him because he's like, I've invented this thing. I'm going to show it, and my fiance, who I've jilted for the third time in a row, is going to understand because this is this incredible thing I've invented. And what I love about this scene where he does it is that he doesn't put Flubber in like any sort of case. He just has it in his hand. He shows up to this woman and he goes, I'm sorry, I literally missed our wedding. And then just raises his hand, which is covered in goo. He's like, but look what I did. Like it's so fucked up. Why is he doing that?
It's such a great description of the scene. Because there's no other explanation than that. He's just holding out this radioactive little ball of green tack to this woman he's jilted for the third time. Not even thinking about the amount of money that weddings cost. And this college is going under, so that could have been put into there. I'm planning a wedding right now. They're fucking way more expensive than you want them to be.
Congratulations.
3 times. No, fuck that shit. It's too expensive.
Hey man, I've got a great money-making idea for you if you need it to help fund those bills. Let's just say you need to throw a bunch of random shit into a pot like it's a fucking witch's brew.
Let me just think about the word
how's your
hot.
skill with radioactive isotopes?
Oh yeah, fine. I've got something to cover up in, and then as soon as it's away, I'll be fine.
Do you have some aluminium foil that you can wrap around yourself?
So yes, he shows Flubber to Sarah, trying to make up for what she's done, but she doesn't give a fuck. So now he's trying to demonstrate to her the valuable qualities of Flubber, and that is that it bounces. And he puts it in his back pocket, and he plans to jump out the window.
Which is the worst place!
We're going to get to it. And to fall out of the window and bounce back up. Okay, let's pause there and talk about the flaws of this plan. Firstly, once you bounce, what is your plan after that? Because he's not going to put you back in through the window. You just go up. And that's the end of that. You've got to land again at some point. Secondly, what is the application of something that is super bouncy, other than stuff we already have? How is Sarah going to see this and be like, oh my god, it's the fucking future. Thank God you missed our wedding.
Also, the implication...
Thank God you missed the wedding for this.
I also love the implication that he can't just explain to her what it is. Like, this is a guy with
He doesn't know what it is.
This is a guy with multiple robots in his house, and his first thought is, my fiance is not going to fucking believe me when I say that this shit is really bouncy. Like, she's not going to buy that for a second. How many fake inventions has he shown up to her at her house with that he now feels the need to immediately leap out a fucking window to be like, no, this time it's not bullshit. This time I'm actually doing something.
But he just puts it in his back pocket as if that's going to fit, like, support his fall at all. I know that he's still figuring out the process of how it's used, but he didn't do anything even remotely close to that the night before. Like, he just let it
threw it around the room. Yeah.
I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say I was praying for him not to survive the fall.
Oh, yeah.
I was hoping we could bail out of this quick.
So, Flubber does shoot out of the pocket, something we've not seen him do before, but he does do now. I don't think he does it again, but fine.
He doesn't do it again.
Fires out, and Philip hits the ground. Rightfully. I'm sure, like you just said, we were all glad when he hit the ground, but somehow he isn't absolutely macerated by the fall. He's basically fine. So this is where things start getting confusing, because we're about to be introduced to characters that have not been in this movie so far, and do not feel like they should be in it. But Junior is the son of the mob boss that we mentioned earlier. He's upset. He's walking into this big mob mansion and he's talking to his dad. He's upset that he's flunking college. That's our tenuous link to our main plot. And his dad is angry that he's paid all these fees and he's basically keeping the college afloat, and that his son is still somehow flunking. Not important, really, but I do want to sum up now.
It's like, how dare you... He says the agreement was that I pay a lot of money and my son passes all the tests so that he can go to Harvard. And what I wrote here is my favorite storyline for any bad guy is a proud dad mob boss who just wants his boy to go to Harvard and not gain any life skills in any way to do so.
Yeah.
Just the piece of paper. Just pay for the piece of paper.
Just go to... Yeah.
I have to say a couple of things about it. I respect the fact that they, in an effort to get away from, Italian stereotypes, they've cast Will Wheaton as Junior, the most fucking white bread looking guy from like Big Bang Theory looking motherfucker. Yeah. As this dude.
I was disappointed by that because I saw Mob Boss on the sheet that you sent us, Evan, and I was like, oh great, there's going to be some Italian dudes in this. And there weren't.
I'm afraid not. No,
there is not. And also, it's what's crazy to me, and it's part of a few things in this film that never amount to anything, and it just feels like it was from a previous script that they rewrote and then left this part in, is that why don't we see Robin Williams interact with Junior at any point? If Junior's apparently this terrible student who keeps getting failed by Robin Williams, why are we only hearing this from Junior? Why is this weird tell don't show
There's
thing?
There's
no
scene of that.
Where he just shows up being like, hey, Dad, so this is my situation. Here's how I know the main character. We don't need to see any of this. I'm just going to tell you. Like, why is that the way we do it?
It wouldn't have to be a long scene. They had a whole fucking 5 seconds where he hit a woman in the face just like nonchalantly. Yeah. They could have replaced that with a scene where he goes, oh, by the way, I'm not going to pass you just because your dad offered me money.
Sorry.
It'd actually make me like his character.
We had no time to cut out the fucking million other useless scenes in this movie to fit
I lost so much faith in this fucking character so quickly, and that would have completely filled that would have made this whole movie better if I just knew that about him earlier. Because as soon as he's like forgotten his marriage 3 times, I'm like, I hate this guy.
Yeah.
Let him chew out some useless fucking teenager. Who cares?
I'm going to translate for you, listener, why we're all so angry about this. And that's because we are 40 minutes into a movie that already hasn't provided us with enough of a reason to stick around. New characters are being introduced who have no connection other than ones they are stating now. And I'm also going to sum up now the stakes that have been established in this movie. So the college is at risk of closing due to the funds. That was the one we started with. And the only one we needed, really.
Yeah.
Philip's relationship is at stake because he's a forgetful boy.
He's terrible.
Philip's rival is threatening to steal his research and his wife, so that's like a little double whammy for you. And Philip must now defeat the mob because he's failing his boss's son. Can you understand how unnecessary that final one? Even the others aren't needed, but that final one is just like someone had the idea in the room and was like, yes, and everybody said yes.
Gotta have a mob
or they were
boss
too afraid to say no.
It's the only reason they have this mob boss in is because of the scene that's coming up after this, where they wanted 2 goons to be beaten up accidentally.
Yes. And that is the exact... What a fucking segue. The 2 mob goons, one of which I think his name is Clancy Brown?
Yeah,
it's
Mr. Krabs himself.
Oh shit!
Of course, yes, I know him. Well, he's from.
Even though Mr. Krabs' name is Eugene, so
that's very true. That's very true.
Nice. He's like the kind of guy you recognise him from lots of things, but you could.
Yeah, he's a goon in a million different things, and he's a very big voice.
He's Gorilla Grodd in one of the DC things, I think.
He has a gorilla's voice.
He has a great voice. All the mob guys have a good voice, while the 2 goons. Philip is doing more science experiments with no protection on whatsoever.
Clearly
in
heartbroken,
his
let me just say. Clearly, he said he was going to die if he let her down again. And let me tell you, he's dead.
He's somehow powderized Flubber now, which, as we established earlier, is a sentient being, and any part you take from him is sentient. So he's killed one of these little guys to turn him into a powder, and he's not even using it for anything because he sneezes into it and blows it all over the room and into his face. I didn't need to note that, but I hate this cunt, and he keeps doing things that I hate. And his first... The first place he thinks I should put this new crystallized Flubber is hand cream. And the only thing he knows about Flubber right now is that it's bouncy. And I don't know why hand cream is the first thing you want to apply that. What's the application? What's he thinking? What's his thought process?
What else could he apply cream to things and then slather it onto objects for it to be bouncy?
It's pretty obvious that he's looking to have the greatest... Look, he's just gone through a horrible breakup. He's looking to go through the greatest wank of his life. I mean, surely that's what he's setting himself up for.
I have something very similar later, you know.
But to your point also about every little piece of Flubber being a part of Flubber, this is not just us like overthinking the rules of this movie. The movie itself reminds you of this because every time he sprays or slathers Flubber on anything, you get this faint sound of what can only be described as Flubber like screaming. Every time he sprays it, you hear this like, oh, like it's Flubber yelling. Like, it's insane.
So, fuck Flubber, because now he's applying him to a little golf ball that he's got lying around. And he wants to test if the bounciness can be transferred to another object. And this is where the goons are peeking in through a window because they want to find out what's going on in this house. And it's just a whole comic scene of the ball bouncing around, bouncing up in the air, hitting him in the face. It's very Home Alone type stuff. And then we get that double down again when he does it with a bowling ball that goes up in the air.
This is my favourite part. This is my favourite part of the movie where he goes, this just sums up him as a scientist. That I use that in quotation marks. It's I love that. It's how well it worked as on the golf ball, right? It fully worked 100% on the golf ball, bounced far more insanely than any golf ball possibly could. And then he goes, well, I'm a scientist, so without making the conditions in my lab any safer, I'll do the exact same procedure with an object far bigger and heavier, even though it caused complete destruction in my laboratory before this. He just goes for it with the ball. He goes, oh, and maybe it'll be a different application on a bowling ball. And it's going to be the exact same thing, but bigger, dude.
This also starts a trend in this movie. And I've just written down the sentence, there is so much head trauma in this movie. I am confident. I was looking through the movie again earlier today. I think every single time anyone gets hit in this movie, they get hit in the head. Like, literally, there is so much falling over and stuff hitting other stuff and blah, blah, blah. And every single time it's the head. It's just people getting fucking smacked in the head with blubber and blubber-covered objects and all kinds of other shit. And it's like, these mob guys, it's like they've gone through an entire lifetime career of boxing in a night. Like, they need to retire now. They have got serious CTE.
And after seeing all of this happen, Philip thinks it's a success because he says, and quote now, there are applications in the field of sports. How? What calls for a golf ball to be any bouncier than it already is? It already does the job perfectly. All you're doing is losing your golf ball every time on the first hit. And secondly, bowling balls are designed not to bounce.
Not to bounce, yeah. But that's where he has the incredible idea, Evan. That's where he has the incredible idea of a sport that does involve bouncing. The wonderful sport of basketball.
Yeah. Also, it is important to note that he seems to believe that the application this has in sports is only to cheat.
It's cheating, yes, it's
cheating. His method now is just like, well, I can make money, not through this new element, but just by using it to rig sports games.
Well, it's a better plan than saving money on the heating bill, to be fair.
No, that's gone out the window now. He's like, it'll be great because our college basketball team sucks. And I know, and he specifically uses the word, it's an equalizer. And I got so worried that they were about to do some racist ass shit in this movie and have all the kids be like white. And I was so ready for it. But instead, I was delightfully surprised that instead they made it that their home team were just a bunch of children, like fully blown adolescent teens against fully grown men.
A professional team, yeah.
So Robin's idea to kind of prove that Flubber exists, that it's good, to win back his girlfriend, is there's an upcoming game, a university basketball game between his university and the university that Shooter McGavin works at. That is kind of the big fancy university. And his plan is that he is going to lead his team to victory by sneaking into the room, into their locker room, adding tacks to the Flubber that he checks in with Weibo as he does it. He's like, now this paint works, right? And Weibo's like, yes, like she's lying, but she's not.
I don't know what that is. I also noted that. Don't know what it's for.
That whole bit is strange. On a side note, by the way, I have to say, it's one of those characters that she has a little TV screen on her head, and she'll constantly show little videos of, like, from cartoons and stuff.
Yeah.
Vocalizing her feelings. Kind of like
Bumblebee.
How Bumblebee and Transformers talk. But Bumblebee couldn't talk, whereas Weebo can talk, but still does that. So she just ends up like that person that you're friends with on Facebook who constantly sends you GIFs, you know? That's basically...
Spot on. Just reply to me. I don't need the GIF.
Yeah, it's like, no, I already get that you say yes. I didn't need to see Michael from The Office also say yes. Like, that was not... that was not helpful in any way. It's just kind of annoying because you're saying everything twice.
That's a crazy way to tell me, Pat, that you didn't like my Office GIF that I sent you last night. So
that was actually... That was the only one I enjoyed. That was the first time I've ever enjoyed Office GIF.
So we've jumped ahead a tiny bit here, so I'm just going to catch us up.
Yeah, and we skipped something important.
So first of all, Philip decides that putting Flubber in the car and charging him with radioactive material makes the car fly. And he shows that to Weebo, and he also goes on a test ride out to Sarah's house.
A very casual test drive.
Yes.
It's the most casual car flying scene I've ever seen in anything.
Somehow the military isn't called, because he's not like he's hiding the car. He's just flying through the street, over the road. He even stops at a red light and floats there.
I had a note where it was like he would be on so many government agency lists in today's world.
Already,
he would just be smothered by the fucking CIA at this point.
If this was a post 9/11 movie, let me tell you, it would have ended differently.
Yeah.
So he has lots of close calls. He's crashing into trees and stuff.
Reverses out of the car, like with the arm behind him, as if he's just, and then the kid just watches us from his backyard. Oh, there's an amazing scene where the kid, is this at this moment where the kid walks out to the window holding a toy gun? Because that's the American dream.
This kid gets tormented throughout this movie of shit showing up at his window. He gets freaked out by Flubber's initial journey. Then the hairiest man in Hollywood, Robin Williams, shows up outside his window. Very scary.
Yeah, so he managed to get it back in the air after scaring that poor boy. He does another absent-minded thing where he turns off the car while he's taking in the view and he plummets, but he manages to get it going again. It's just all very annoying stuff. And you're left to wonder, how did this guy ever get a degree, let alone a job? But at some point you've got to stop asking that just to get through the movie. And then Philip arrives at Sarah's house to find that she's having dinner with Wilson Croft, who is Shooter McGavin, and they're having some drinks and food outside, and he sort of just hovers above them before waiting for Wilson to leave.
And the vehicle is going really loudly, like,
yeah.
and they're just there like, wow, I love the ambient gamma radiation noise you've got going on in your house.
It's like one of those white noise machines, but it's just racket. And he launches an apple at Wilson's head as he leaves. For some reason, Wilson doesn't look up, but he's just floored by this apple and doesn't see anything.
Head trauma alert, by the way. I'm just going to be saying head trauma alert throughout this this plot.
So now the mob goons, they go and report what they've seen in, the bouncing ball stuff in Philip's basement back to the mob boss. And he doesn't believe them, but then they show them the welts. And the one who has the golf ball hit him a bunch of times. I understand him like taking off the ice pack and being fine with seeing the welts. But the one who was hit with a bowling ball should be revealing a crushed cranium.
Well, should be dead. Yeah, just dead.
Yeah, oh yeah, he should be dead. And then the mob boss finally believes that something's going on.
Because that bowling ball comes from so high up, it's definitely coming at him at like terminal velocity, you know what I mean? Like, there's no way this bowling ball is not just coming at it as fast as it possibly can.
It should have driven him waist deep into the dirt.
Yes, like a Looney Tunes. Philip arrives home after spying on Sarah, and Weebo has this little creepy scene where she tries to cheer up. She's like, it's very obvious that she's in love with him. We've joked about it, but this movie is creepy because of this. Because Philip doesn't realise that she's in, or sometimes maybe he does like show that he does, but he like completely.
No, but this is the scary level
all the time. Yeah, and she wants to make him feel better, and Philip sort of creepily says, "So do I." So clearly, you think he wishes that he should have built blowjob lips on her. But he then shames her for some reason for trying to help him by saying that she could never understand human emotion. She's just a lowly robot.
Yeah, I loved that. I love that he just like fucking hits her in the gut with like, "Oh well, you don't have a soul, so I could never love you. You can never experience love." And just one day you will fade as your like power coils fail and no one will ever mourn your passing. Like, he just fucking blasts her with it. Both barrels.
And just like any heartbroken teen girl, she then goes and makes like a collage of the perfect woman to turn into as a hologram version, to then sexually assault him in his sleep. And I wrote here, terrifying, absolutely terrifying, shut Weibo down immediately.
Abso-fucking-lutely. That was a perfect description, because she's like using MS Paint, and she's dragging JPEGs of cut out like an eye, a nose, lips
I'll
from
have
different
this
women.
chick's lips and this woman's hair and
Mashes
this
them all
person's
together.
butt.
And then creates a hologram to walk into Philip's room. I hated this as a kid. I didn't understand it.
So
it's
much.
so sexually charged that when I saw this movie as a kid, I didn't understand what was happening. It felt like innately sort of dangerous to me.
It's probably a scene put in there for the confused kids going through 80s puberty. They want to, like, fuck Princess Peach, slash their Game Boy Color, and, like, they're trying to work through those feelings.
And then he wakes up to her, like, about to kiss him, and he wakes up, and not that he thinks anything about what has happened or what was in front of him to wake up, he immediately has the brilliant idea that his Flubber would be great at cheating at basketball.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moves past it immediately.
He has lost his marriage. He's lost his wife. He's got a robot trying to sleep with him in his sleep. And he's still thinking about fucking Flubber.
Well, following that up, he now takes Flubber to the basketball court for a trial run. He's got some liquidized Flubber, he's got some little pads. Of course, he hasn't taken the actual Flubber. It costs too much to generate him for the scenes, so he's only got those versions of him.
He's just got Flubber's babies / toes or something to spray onto the basketball.
Yeah, and he sprays it, an aerosol thing onto the basketball.
Essence of Flubber.
We hear more Flubber screams.
Oh yeah. He puts it on his shoes as well, and he does like a little pad. This is just to show us that it can make you jump super high. But I want to note that it doesn't change his anatomy in any way. So when he's bouncing his leg like that and jumping up into the air, I asked my girlfriend this because she did biology, it would absolutely decimate the synovial fluid in his knees.
Well, luckily he's only going to use this on children.
True.
And what you're forgetting to consider, Evan, is the already considerable effect of the mutations that exposure to Flubber has done on his body. Like, he's essentially the Hulk at this point. The amount of, there's no shock into his knees because the amount of cushioning tumours that have grown within his kneecap. Like,
Flubber go bounce!
So now, happy with the results of that whole trial run, he takes Flubber, without any more testing, to the actual basketball game. And now we're catching up to where you boys were saying. He's in the locker room. He's spraying it on the shoes. He snuck into a locker room, which is already
just straight up cheating. It's more cheating. It doesn't even tell the team. He doesn't tell the team that he's going to cheat for them.
Which seems like it would backfire more than anything if they could suddenly jump through the fucking roof and they aren't aware of it.
Well, the movie tries to offset that by saying that he'd added a sort of a delay to the Flubber, because they specifically say it would be suspicious if they jump right from the start, implying that it's not suspicious that you just start jumping that high at half time.
That you start having superhuman abilities? Yeah, that's not suspicious at all.
No, entering into fucking Space Jam in the second half of the match is in no way troubling.
I just want to notice, it's not important, but the coach for the team was Ted from Scrubs.
Yeah, I noticed that. He does a really good job in this movie. His speech to the team at the start is so funny because he's just doing the whole like, look, they're better than us. They would demolish us. They've got 100 wins in a row. They're faster enough. They're nicer than us. They have more will to win, but let's get them. Like, it's so good.
Go get it, boys. So he puts Flubber on the souls of the entire team, and it's got that delay now, so no one will be suspicious. So it's at this point where we cut away, and I actually written in the spreadsheet, which may have caused some confusion, because Weibo and Weber both unlock Flubber. And I didn't know why this had happened, because I didn't result in anything, but I realised this is the lead up to the Flubber Mambo, which has no reason for being in the movie, but it's just a nice little way they can flex their CGI
Exactly,
stuff.
so this is a bizarre scene, because before he leaves for the basketball game, Robin Williams makes a point to say, like, to Weibo, like, remember, like, don't let Flubber out. Like, keep Flubber contained. Flubber's can be dangerous or whatever. Keep it in the box. And Weibo says...
she gets jealous, doesn't she?
But she's not jealous of Flubber. Robin Williams doesn't want to fuck
I think she's jealous
Flubber.
of everything. I think she's
there's
fucking...
just this
she
weird
wants
thing
Robin.
where she goes, great, yes, I won't release Flubber. Then when Robin Williams drives off, she plays like an evil video on her head. You're like, oh great, she doesn't want to release Flubber. It's never explained why she wants to do it. And then when she does do it, she does, as you say, her and her sidekick / boyfriend, I don't know, Weber. No, that's my barbecue, whatever it is.
Weber.
Weber, I think.
Weber. They release Flubber, and then Flubber just does, like, what I can only
dances.
describe as one of those ringtone ads where you text in Flubber to this number and you get the video of Flubber dancing. Like, it's one of those terrible...
So
it's like an early screensaver. It's this weird long sequence of Flubber just dancing.
But then, strangely, this is what people remember from the movie. This is the glory shot. This is... Have you seen The Mask with Jim Carrey? This is Cuban Pete from that, where he's dancing in the streets. That's what you remember from that. So...
Yeah.
Even though it has no context within the movie or the plot.
Well, I completely disagree. It's how he stops the police from shooting him in the brain. So, I think that's...
Okay. I do love that movie. But it is very rapey. We covered it on the pod, and I had not seen it for a very long time. He is the most sexual... Even more so than
It's on my
Weibo
list of
here.
the episodes to listen to yours, where I'm like, I remember... I think you'd mentioned it on an episode that The Mask was really kind of creepy to watch, and so I was like, I've got to go and listen to that episode.
And not to get too much into the weeds with it, but his friend is worse. Like, imagine if his friend got the mask.
oh, for sure. Yeah, the bank guy. Does he work in the bank in that? He does.
Yeah, the bank guy. Yeah,
awful.
Yeah. That guy would have... Well, anyways. Man, imagine if Flubber got the mask. That would be...
Somebody stop me! I'm bouncing! Oh, that's bad. Oh, God. I'm leaving the call. All right, let me just leave the call right now.
He just says bouncing instead of smoking. Anyways, go.
The basketball game continues and Flubber activates on all of them. They're all jumping in the air. But for some reason, the mob boss is at the game. Just to remind us he's in the film, and he says that he's going to put 10 grand on
He bet on the...
which is the professional team, against his own kids' team.
Also, one incredibly tiny detail I noted, but it was quite funny to me, is that, so the game so far, the first half of this game, you've got these little weedy nerds against this big professional basketball team. They're getting absolutely smoked. At the halftime point, the Flubber starts to take effect, right? The weedy team starts to, But before that happens, you get a shot of the leaderboard, and it's 66-48. Like...
the kids have been doing pretty good.
I know basketball's not like soccer. Like, it's like impossible to lose, to have, like, no points. But it's like... It's not a close game, but they're in it. Like, how did they get that many points?
If you had put that team, that actual team that was represented to us, against the team that they're supposed to be against, there's no chance a single one of them is scoring a point. Because not a single one of them goes above any of the opponent's waistline.
It's so funny that it's just like, no, they were actually doing, like, you wouldn't be embarrassed coming home from a game like that. It's so funny to me.
Well, we lost by 20 points, but the guy I was guarding was a 6'8" black dude.
I think that guy is in the NBA, so I don't feel too bad.
So, not convinced that the shoes is going to be enough, Philip here, he gets down to I don't know anything about basketball, but it's the bit where they all come back onto the court. Yeah, and he's shaking all their hands. He's creamed up his hands. And he's shaking them all to make sure that the ball bounces a hell of a lot off them. I don't know how that's useful in any way, because you wouldn't be able to control anything, but it seems to work out.
But they control it fine.
Yes, it all works out.
Despite
they
having
win.
no skill.
It sort of ends with this, again, glory shot of this boy jumping. Robin Williams tells him, you make the jump of your life. You put your whole soul into it. Don't even worry about it. And he goes through the hoop head first with the ball. Again,
trauma alert. Thank you. You beat me to it.
How he is not a pizza on the floor, I don't know. But they win the game.
But hang on, before the best part is, I don't know if you were about to bring this up, but the best part is the ref, when the guy turns, one of the people turns to the ref and they're like, these guys are cheating, obviously, come on, you can see that they're cheating. And the ref goes, ain't nothing in the rule book says a team can't suddenly jump more better.
He's like, He's like, there's nothing in the rule book about jumping too high. It's like, yeah, but these guys are clearly doping.
It's like, there's nothing in the rule book about our team suddenly being able to jump 30 meters after halftime when before they were clearly not winning at all.
This is a ref with skin in the game.
Is this a reference to Air Bud, or is Air Bud a reference to this? Because
I think it might just be lazy riding. I think is the answer.
It's so funny. Ain't nothing in the rules about jumping high. It's like, they're not jumping high. They're jumping abnormally, freakishly, fucking insane high.
So this movie came out the same year as Air Bud.
Oh.
So it's neck
the
and neck.
same writer, probably.
Yeah.
The same writer where he's like, hey, I had this great line in the Air Bud movie. I think we could use it for Flubber too.
I think we could use this again for Flubber.
Is there a basketball scene in Flubber? Because I think we should make a basketball scene in Flubber. Because I got this great line about there ain't no rules in the rule
What
book.
if he puts Flubber on a dog and then the dog plays basketball?
So they win the game, and Philip, thinking, he's finally done it, he can now convince Sarah that everything was worth it. He approaches her after the match. She's with Hugh McGavin, who I've now forgotten the name of, but she doesn't give a shit. She doesn't even believe that this was Flubber, because to be fair, he's never told her that Flubber could do this, that he could crystallize it or liquidize it, or even that he was planning to do this in the first place. And even if he had, surely she'd be annoyed that they just cheated to win that game. But hey, fuck it. It doesn't matter. The mob boss sees Philip flying home. We can glaze over that. That's just set up for later. And Philip gets home and he does a big old vent to Weibo again, where he says he wishes he understood humans, human emotion, and especially women, which is ironic since he absolutely teared into Weibo not 10 minutes ago for not being a human.
Yeah, I know. It makes that all the funnier. Like, from his perspective, he might as well be talking to his toaster. Like, he has no respect. He has no respect for Weibo as, like, a living thing. And now he's like, Weibo, I just don't get women.
And this is the scene where he says that he's absent-minded a whole bunch in this whole speech. He says it like 4 times. And that's really to nail in that this is a remake. And then, just to encapsulate that we didn't need this scene, but now Weibo flies over to Sarah to try and convince... This is where she's cucking herself. She's flying to convince Sarah to take him back. And she plays this scene again.
I know, we
in its
literally
entirety.
see it. It's seconds later. I don't know why it works on her, because first off, he says, I'm not absent-minded because I don't know, whatever. I'm absent-minded because I'm in love with her. Which, again, isn't true, because that's said like he's daydreaming about her. He doesn't give this woman a second of thought when she's not literally sitting in front of him. And even then
Not even when he's sitting in front of him.
Yeah. It looked like it's just not true. He would remember getting married to her if that were the case.
And she sees this video of him being sad, and she goes, "Oh, he is sweet, actually." Weibo never tells her that Weibo's the reason that he forgot the wedding.
Yeah.
That she purposely didn't remind him about the wedding. And it's like, there's no character growth for this poor character. She just, the ex-wife, the fiancé now, just simply forgives him off the basis of, oh, well, he is forgetful, I guess, but God, he's a nice bloke, and God, he loves me. Like, it's fucking bullshit.
I didn't really believe it until his fucking Roomba that is trying to compete with me for him told me. Like, that's what made the difference, I guess.
Look, boys, the movie needs to continue happening, so you're going to have to drop all of that and follow on with me.
Yes, let's watch it. Sorry.
Sarah, you're going to have to give this guy a 4th chance. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sometimes there's no reason. Sometimes it's just that there's more plot to come. Sarah wakes up Philip in a very similar fashion to Weibo earlier on, with a little kiss, and they go for a
gave her
fly
the idea.
in the car. Also, lead with the flying car if you're trying to win a woman back.
I know,
Dude,
right?
this is the biggest fault of the movie, where it finally takes her to be like, hey, moron, you're in a flying fucking car, and you're trying to how about instead of trying to rig college basketball games with Flubber bullshit, why don't you fucking give people flying cars?
So that's basically her entire speech, yeah, but a little nicer because she loves him. But he's still not really getting it.
It should be harsher, and it should be her saying, I'm leaving you again.
And they return back to the garage to find the mob there, because they'd seen the flying car earlier on. Yeah. And he wants to strike a deal with Philip. But for some reason, Philip refuses to sell, even though this is the guy who they literally owe money to from the college, and he'll also pay for the idea of the car.
It just doesn't make any sense. Why is this character in the movie? Why is this scene in the movie?
He clearly threatens him. He's like, if you don't give it to me, I'll just take it. And he's like, well, I guess you'll have to take it. And he's like, I have no problem with this.
Well, for some reason, Philip thinks it's a better idea to sell the car to Ford, which, I know a corporation is slightly better than the mob, but it's not hugely morally different, is it?
I'm surprised when the Ford guy sees him flying outside the window, he doesn't, shoot him out of the sky. This is a direct competitor. It's not like the guy who invented the electric car benefited from showing the automobile industry. They tanked it.
It's also so clearly, I don't know, for me, it just reads so clearly that it's a bit of paid promotion.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
It's the only brand mentioned in the entire movie, and it's so welcome to Ford.
It's the only reason there's a car in the movie, let alone that it can fly. It's just so they can lead up to
there's
this
something
promotion.
I didn't bring up until when they're flying the car, he's in a convertible car. Right? And yet he has Weibo in the seat next to him as if the inertia from the air is going to keep Weibo in place. And Weibo just stays in place with the vehicle as if it wouldn't just fly out the fucking nether.
That's Flubber, baby. That's Flubber.
It's like, if you're going to have a flying car, do it Harry Potter style and have a roof on.
But of course, now the mob is not content with not getting their hands on that car.
Yeah, so they break right into Philip's house. They smash everything up in that basement until they find Flubber. But similar mistakes to what Philip made. The mob guy sees goo, this little green Flubber pre-cum leaking out of the container, and he sticks his finger in it, not knowing what it is. They don't know about Flubber. They just know that there's a flying car. And he's like, yep, this is it. This is the stuff we've got to take back. And they try to steal that. But you're going to love this now, Pat. This is concussion central, isn't it?
It is head trauma fucking city. She doesn't go for the groin.
No.
Even Weibo gets a bit of fucking concussion to their head in this one.
She gets it the worst, yes. And I was kind of glad of it, to be fair.
It was a dream.
Stoked.
It's like hitting that mosquito that's been bothering you all night, and you finally get it with a well-timed clap.
Yeah. So she clunks them in the head. One of them takes a bat, hits her to the ground, hits her a few more times. She is fucked up. And Philip and Sarah arrive home after their little trip to Ford to find her all broken up.
I've never seen so many zeros, is a line from as they come into the house.
Then they see Weibo's dying corpse, and Philip's like, I'm looking at one more.
Well, he says that he's going to download her quickly before she dies, and then does nothing. He just watches her die, because he doesn't want to save her.
You know what, though? Actually, a bit of watching Robin Williams in this scene, and you're like, damn, he's good. He's really selling this emotional connection to this terrible robot.
He's selling it well, even though, it's all very convenient for him. When your robot's in love with you, it doesn't have a soul. Now it's dying. Oh, suddenly it has a soul again. I have to say, I was blown away by this scene, because I kept expecting there to be this hand wave of oh my god, oh, she's dying. That's okay, we'll back her up. And they keep saying it as if they're going to do, but then you realise that it's just him having this he's grasping at straws moment.
Yeah.
And of course, instead what happens...
Well, because he's not successfully able to recreate or do any of his inventions, because all of his inventions happen by accident.
And there's something that proves that in a moment, but you first, Pat.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to go on to the insane scene that follows this.
Okay, yeah, so before she dies, she shows a file name to Philip and Sarah, and that is Sylvia. And people listening won't recognise that because we didn't mention it earlier, but the name for the hologram that she creates, Weibo, earlier on, she picked is Sylvia. That's why that's important. He goes to the computer and he finds the file name after downloading it, and it's this... It is the video version of a suicide note, because there's no way she knew she was going to die. She had just prepared it just in case.
It's her in her hologram form being like, if you're watching this, I'm dead. It's insane.
And it gets even worse, because she talks about how she's backed up a version of herself, removed any faults, and added a little bit of Philip. And then she calls whatever this new download will be her daughter, implying that it would be their child. But going back to what you said before there, Barry, Weibo does say that Philip doesn't know her code.
And because she says that she had hidden it from him, right?
Yes.
And then you're like, but what else is she hiding from him? A full stop and all the things. But it's
The daughter.
And although that's a generous read on this situation, but I guarantee you this man has no idea how his inventions are solved. And I have proof at the very end of the movie, and I'll hold my proof until then.
But also, we better pray and hope that he has no idea how his inventions are made. Because if we're following the logic that Weebo's put together this new program and that is her daughter, then by that logic, Robin Williams is Weebo's dad. So what fucked up fucking relationship was she trying to pursue?
Oh, yeah.
If that's the logic, that she's made a child with her own dad.
The one thing we were missing from this movie was incest, and we've just bloody nailed it down.
It was the insane suicide note using the form of this amalgamated being that she's created that she tried to seduce him in his sleep with. And then she throws that fucking bombshell into it. It's such an insane way to resolve that character's fucking path.
We forget about Weebo now until the end of the movie.
Thank Christ.
Because Philip and Sarah, thank Christ, have a plan. They head over to the mob's house because Flubber's been stolen, obviously. And he says that he wants to make a deal and that he'll give him 2 years. Well, the mob boss says that he wants 2 years from him. Give him any of the ideas he has just for a 30-day extension on the loan, which is an insane deal to ask for, yeah. The mob boss should have known this is a trick, because there is no way in which that works out for Philip. Because even if you work for him for 2 years, he's just said he's going to take all the money, so you'd never be able to repay the loan. But fine, we'll put that aside, because it's flubbering time, isn't it?
I loved that note. Yeah, that was great. I only have one note for this whole section, except for right at the end. And the only note I have is in quotation marks, "Oh dear." And that's when Robin Williams gets thrown against the wall and he gets pushed against next to a deer headpiece and he goes, "Oh dear."
That part does rule. But so just before that, that's we have the quote unquote reveal that the mob boss is also working with Shooter McGavin.
Yeah, reveal is a generous read.
And what I love is that Robin Williams' fiance, what's her name, Sarah. Yes. She's shocked, and that seems fair enough because he's kind of been putting up. But Robin Williams looks shocked as well. This is a guy who has never been more upfront about how evil he is. And then it's like, "Oh, you're stealing my invention?" It's like, dude, the first thing you said to him when he walked in this movie was, "Oh, you're back to steal another one of my inventions." Why are you surprised now?
It's so good. I also love the scene.
Oh, yeah? No, go on.
No, after you.
No, you.
Okay. Well, I was going to say I love the scene after this where the mob goon is searching Robin Williams before allowing him to approach Flubber. And first of all, he finds the hand cream, and there's a whole thing about that. But then he finds a water pistol, which
this is the funniest scene in the whole movie.
This scene rules.
It's disgusting that they call it a squirt gun. I hated that.
Yeah.
But we'll live with it. And then the mob boss keeps telling him to give it to him, meaning to hand over the gun. Yeah. But just for 2 minutes straight, this guy squirts Robin Williams in the face and in the hands.
Yeah, and then he goes, "I'm saying, give it to his hand," and then the Mulgoon, looking so genuinely confused, starts spraying Robin Williams' hand, looking back at his boss, being like, "Is this what you want?"
Fantastic.
The other tiny thing I wanted to mention about this scene is that, and I rewatched this to make sure, but the sequence of events that happens with the mob boss, as with the goon, is that he finds the gun, which looks like a real gun, in Robin Williams' in his shirt pocket.
Inside pocket.
Takes it out, sprays Robin Williams in the mouth. Robin Williams says it's a squirt gun, which means that the mob goon was going to take the gun out and shoot Robin Williams in the face immediately. He just instinctively fires at his face.
So good.
It's an incredible moment. It's truly... I was like getting ready to tap out of this film, and that just I was like, I wish this film was twice as long.
I say, release the Flubber cut where it was a real gun and Robin Williams' brains are sprayed across the library.
And then the brain turns into Flubber and it all goes around because he's got all the radiation in his brain that starts fucking.
He reforms like the Terminator 2 Terminator.
Oh, hell yeah, that's a movie.
Actually, well, you know what, funnily, in the behind the scenes that I did watch a little bit of. They talk about they considered using the same technology, the same effects that made that in Terminator 2. That what is it called?
Nice.
The liquid robot.
Yeah.
They considered using that for Flubber.
Oh, nice.
Why didn't they? If
Yeah,
it was
they
already
should've.
there.
They wanted something. It was too solid. Like they needed it to be more
goopy.
more bouncy.
Isn't it crazy that they needed a whole different system for that back then, and now that's probably literally a slider on whatever program you use.
No, they
More
deleted
bouncy.
that feature. They're like, no one's ever going to need this again.
No, literally I'm pretty sure in like Adobe Premiere, there's a slider where one end is Terminator 2 and the other end is Flubber, and you literally just bring it back and forth. But yeah, then Robin Williams unveils his master plan, which is he releases Flubber and then activates the headlights of his car, which act like it brings us back to the camera flash at the start,
of course,
making
yes.
Flubber go bonkers.
Mental, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I thought was going to happen in the basketball game. I thought there was going to be some guy being like, wow, what a game. And you know, I thought it was going to play more of a role, but it was just to get to this final moment.
So they could not afford that. We can have Flubber in 2 scenes. That was the dance, and that's now. Yeah, so Flubber goes mad. He's bouncing around the room, and because they've applied the cream to their hands, which we know has Flubber in, they start doing this fight scene where not a whole lot of interesting stuff happens. It's literally just people being bopped, and all hits are to the face. As Pat said,
exactly.
Everyone's being punched in the face.
This is
over
where I
and over
started to
again.
develop my theory, because no one gets punched. You'd think it would be a funny thing to give someone like a gut punch and they fly back. No, every single punch, every swing in this scene is to the face.
The only thing who doesn't make a blow to the face and instead makes a blow straight out the anus is Flubber.
Yes.
Via our man, the fucking
Shooter McGavin.
Shooter McGavin.
The Flubber flies
Straight
into
out
his
his
mouth. He accidentally swallows it. He does a piece of acting which I can only describe as fucking Herculean. And
Like the worst sensation.
He truly looks like a man who has got Flubber moving through his small intestine. The look on his face. And then he shits Flubber out. And that's, what else can you say? He shits out Flubber.
And for some reason, they now win. And the mob leave them alone. And the movie is coming into a close.
And Robin turns into Willy Wonka.
The only thing we get now is that they get married again. They splash another 20k on another wedding. But for some reason, Sarah has agreed to allow Robin, Philip, to do it via Skype so he can play with his toys in his basement.
Yeah, he has had absolutely no character development.
No character arc.
It's the exact same. She's had to move all the way across the aisle, literally, and he has had no fucking change at all, except that he's put on a fucking top hat, so now he looks like the Monopoly man.
Yeah, I wrote here, the message of the movie is that she had to learn to accept him for who he was instead of him not missing their 4th attempt at a wedding.
And that's spot on.
Oh, and now this is my proof. So we finally made it to the end of the movie, and here is the final bit of proof that this man has no idea what he is doing at any moment, because he is on the Skype call at the wedding. They kiss the camera really awkwardly and shitty in a way that would make any COVID couple cringe at their experience the last couple of years. And then he goes, "Oh, don't worry about these chemicals I'm mixing. They're completely compatible." And then his entire fucking laboratory blows up because everything he does is a 50-50 fluke.
Yeah, and let's also not move past the detail that I believe he kisses the new Weebo, the Weebette, screen. So that means when getting married to his wife, he does so by kissing the illegitimate love child he has with his dead robot Floozy.
Robot.
Yes, and this is his daughter/granddaughter.
Yes. Let's also not move past that. And then, of course, they do the Grease ending. They get into their flying car and fly off.
They do indeed.
And who does the voiceover at the end?
So that's Weebette talking at the end.
That's Weebette.
I was really confused by that because you don't see her, and they don't really set up what her voice sounds like. But just at the very end, she starts complaining about, like, I'm not going to be in a hotel room with Flubber, because I guess it's like they're on a family road trip. Flubber's also his son, so Sarah better watch out for Flubber in case he starts making moves towards fucking Robin. And they fly off into the sunset while the kind of bratty teenage Weebette talks about how she won't share a hotel room.
And that's the movie.
And that's fucking Flubber. That's Flubber.
I checked to see if there was a post-credit scene or something that rounds it off better, but that literally is it.
Yeah, my God.
I hope that Sarah has no hopes of having children with this man, because he is occupied with his two fucking made children that he Frankensteins to bring to life.
There's no way he still has operational sperm after what he's exposed himself to. So
the gamma radiation.
We're completely fine on that front.
Wow, that was great, boys. Thank you very much.
Oh my God. Thank you, Evan, for having us.
Well, you're not leaving yet, mate. I've got a bloody question for you. For once, I'm glad not to be asked it. So, boys, you think that was good, do you?
No. I didn't like it. I wanted to like it so bad, Evan. I thought this was like a massive classic. I think I've never seen it, and I didn't like it.
What was wrong with it, mate?
Go on, Barry. What didn't you like?
I think I didn't like... I was out as soon as the robot had love feelings for Robin Williams and was hiding information from his wife.
Yeah, that's...
Actually, I was out the second the wife said, oh, who could forget a third wedding? I was out. I was like, this movie sucks and this guy is terrible.
Oh, man. I have to say that I knew this movie was a stinker. I hadn't watched it since I was a kid, but even as a kid, I was like, this is boring. I want to watch I want to watch Jimmy Neutron instead or whatever. But I have to say that rewatching it, there were a lot of scenes and a lot of performances that I thought were really good. Obviously,
the performances are good.
Obviously, the movie as a whole is absolute dog shit. It's clearly been cobbled together from 6 different scripts. It doesn't make any sense. There are entire parts that you could cut that wouldn't be any different. Weibo needs to be burnt in the fucking steak. But Robin Williams does he's a good performance. He's Robin Williams. He's great. Christopher McDonald as Shooter McGavin. I know that's not his name, but I'm sticking to it. It does a fantastic performance. The goons are great. The fucking water pistol scene is an all-time scene. And
it's so good. That actually did help the movie.
And there's a couple of great little bit parts. Ted from Scrubs, R.I.P. to that actor.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Does a fantastic monologue. Like, there was clearly a really, really solid classic 80s kids movie here underneath a pile of absolute dog shit. Like, this is such a studio ruined movie, but you've got a few little things of good. So I have to say, I will never watch this movie again. But I've got the file on my computer now, and I will skip to that water pistol scene every few years and rewatch that.
Well, I can't sum it up any better than you boys had. I feel exactly the same way. The cast, I think, outstanding. Not everyone was, amazing, but no one had a poor role in this. Just a strange and unnecessary movie, this. I get that the Flubber element is fun for kids, but other than that, I don't know what else in this movie was for kids. It was all very strange, sinister stuff piled on.
Do they enjoy the idea of not showing up to your wedding? Like, is that fun for kids?
Yeah, strange adult worries, the weird relationship with the robot. Oh, we've covered it all already.
Yeah.
You know what the issues were. I have to say, though, I did enjoy this. Will I watch it again? Probably not for fun. But strangely, I did have a good time with this. Before we round off, is there anything else you boys want to add? Anything more you want to plug?
Oh, I mean, we'll plug our podcast, obviously. Yeah,
Do it.
Please listen to Blockblunders. We're on all the podcast services, wherever you listen to the things. And if you like this podcast, I think you'll like ours. It's movie aligned and it's a lot of fun.
If you've got that classic movie that you've never seen and everyone says, oh, you should watch that, but you reckon you've kind of got the gist of it. Maybe it's The Godfather, maybe it's E.T., maybe it's fucking Spider-Man. Give our podcast a listen. We'll have if it's not out by the time this episode's out, we'll have an upcoming episode with the star of So You Think That Was Good, Do You, Evan Lewis. Cut out your last name if you don't share your last name on the podcast.
That is absolutely fine with me. It's fine.
All right, Evan Lewis, living on 321 Cardiff Avenue, Cardiff. No, thanks so much for having us. What a blast.
Thank you, boys. I can't second that enough. I've listened to every episode of your podcast. It really is very, very good. These boys have such a good chemistry on there, and they're very funny. The last episode as well with, can't believe I've just forgotten her name.
Jenny Chan, really great.
Chan, yes. Really good. She came pretty unprepared, but she really rides that out. It's really funny. So if you're going to start with one, I reckon that one. It's real good stuff. Other than that, boys, unless there's anything else?
No, thank you so much for having us, Evan. This was amazing. It's so fun.
Thank you, boys, for joining me. This was excellent. You really, really stuck that out. It was awesome. And thank all of you for listening. Don't you dare forget to go and check out Blockblunders. If you'd be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that'd really help with the reach of the pod. Same goes for these boys. Get on Apple Podcasts. Hit that 5-star review. Yeah, you might not mean it. You might not have listened. Please do both those things, though. But leaving a review is actually the only way that podcasts like this get reach. It is absolutely fucked how the algorithms work, so they really, really help. But please do listen and please do enjoy them.
Mostly just listen and enjoy.
Hey, why not give us a follow over on Twitter and Instagram at So You Think Pod? And boys, what are your socials so people can find you before we round off here?
We're at Blockblunders on TikTok and on Instagram, and we are at _Blockblunders on Twitter.
We've also got a little YouTube channel where we share some videos, lots of fun.
And they're very, very good, so do check those out. Make sure you come back again next week when we'll be ripping the shit into the childhood classic Babe, which I have never seen, so I look forward to getting stuck into that. And I've got another bloody new guest for you. And all I really want to leave you off with is this thought, and it's, how the fuck did Phillip Brainard get a degree and a job? Goodbye.